Hi, I'm Manuente Reme, Icheb from Star Trek Voyager and the executive producer of the Circuit Urbiesa, and you're listening to Kneel Before Pod.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
Hello, and welcome to another interstellar edition of Kneel Before Pod. I'm your host Craig McKenzie, and I'm very excited to be talking about brand new, never-before-seen Star Trek. I've been waiting 12 years for this, and now it's finally here. Naturally, we have to talk about it, so I'm going to activate the transporter and bring in some people who can help. Okay, standing before me on the transporter pad, we have Chris.
Hello.
A Vulcan hello to you.
A Vulcan hello back.
Which is apparently a punch in the face. And Sandy, a Vulcan hello to you as well.
Hello. That's a very Glaswegian thing to do. Hello, thump.
Well, apparently it's a very Vulcan thing to do, but we go on. So, we're all here on this ship. I thought I was going to do snazzy hologram communication, but we don't have the budget for that, so here we are in relative person to talk about the first two episodes of Star Trek Discovery that just landed on Netflix over the past couple of days. Well, yesterday. So, new Star Trek, yay! As far as I'm concerned. Before we go into spoilers, what are the thoughts?
I have really, really, really enjoyed this. I've been pleasantly surprised. I was a little bit worried. Like most people, you sort of sit there and go, oh no, what are they going to do? It looks really good, but then it could be terrible. But no, I've been really pleasantly surprised with this. Different to what I was expecting. They've not sort of stuck too closely to stuff, so it's allowed them to be a bit more flexible. I like the format change. It seems to work and be nice and different in a way that might rejuvenate the franchise a little bit. But quality-wise and story-wise and everything, really liking it so far.
Yeah, I can't really say much more than that, really. I was, again, pleasantly surprised. I was expecting the worst and hoping for the best, and the best won.
Yay! Yeah, I was expecting it to be good. Because I wanted it to be good, so I was expecting it to be good. Everything I'd seen prior to this point had been positive, at least for me. So I decided, I was going to go into this with optimism, and it did not disappoint me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The second episode is probably not as good as the first episode, although I enjoyed both. I like the characters. I think it looks very slick and modern, while also remaining quite faithful to Star Trek's roots. So it's it's very much Star Trek being made now, which is nice. Yeah. So with that in mind, I don't think we can say much more without spoiling it, really. So unless anyone has anything else, I will activate spoiler alert, raise shields, and we can sit in safety and chat about whatever we want.
Change the bulbs to red and hit that button.
Changing bulbs, hitting button. Chris, are you okay with?
Yeah, I'm just going to cower underneath the table here before it explodes.
Well, yeah, stay away from your console. That's the first thing to go.
That's the first rule of surviving a battle in Star Trek. Step away from the console.
It's a shame if you need to use it, but
yeah,
it's not worth your life. Although, yeah.
Thinglongers.
Yeah, that's it. That's what they need. Thinglongers in Star Trek. Yeah. Anyway, going to spoiler alert. Okay, so we could have probably talked about this without doing the spoiler section, but we'll stick it here anyway.
Yeah, they're sensitive people, so
yes. The first thing we should probably go for is the theme tune and titles, because every Star Trek series has had its own distinctive title sequence and theme tune, including Enterprises, which was crap. But the song was crap. The visual was okay.
In your opinion.
Well, yeah, but I hate the song. It's just horrible to listen to. I think from episode 2 I was just skipping it. But So this one, I like the titles. I think the sort of design of the titles is nice. Although the theme tune might need to grow on me because I can't remember it to think about it at the moment. When I think about TNG or DS9 or Voyager original series, I can hear them in my head, but I can't hear this in my head. And I do acknowledge it's only been 2 episodes, and I haven't listened to it for one of them. So, yeah.
Tisk tisk. So if you don't listen to it, then of course you don't have it in your head. Although I will admit, I've got the same opinion there in terms of it's not memorable yet. It seems a little dainty and forgetful. The sequence themselves with all the blueprints and stuff like that, I actually like. I thought that's a nice little take. That's different to what you normally get, which is basically space imagery and stuff like that. But I liked it. It was almost like a Bond title sequence.
I had that thought myself. Yeah.
You had the Discovery silhouette, which was a recurring theme, which I thought was a really nice idea. I just liked it. The music itself, with Voyager, I had the music in my head within the first episode. Next Generation, same thing. I really, really loved it. DS9 took a little while for me to get used to because I found it very slow and boring. But this one, I don't know. It's going to be a little while, I think, before I know the song within the first few bars. I mean, any other title music for Star Trek, I can tell you what it is within the first couple of bars.
Yeah. And this one has echoes of the famous fanfare in it as well, so it sounds like it's about to go one way, but then it doesn't.
Yeah, just a smidgen, and then at the end as well. It seems disjointed at the end though, where it starts to get into a crescendo, and then just disappears.
It does crescendo into sort of nothingness. I mean, it sounds like at the beginning, like they sort of put a little bit at the beginning of the sort of the Next Generation bit at the beginning, with the little sort of tones coming in. And then it sort of drifts into a bit of nothing in the middle. And then they have a little element going in the end. But I'm kind of with you. I like the graphics. I like the sort of design elements that they've done where they sort of break the devices apart and sort of show all that. There's a bit of a weird sequence with flowers that I don't quite understand. and then it sort of finishes. But it's not massively memorable music, but maybe we'll look back and go, oh, actually, that was quite... I mean, but I do think it's one of those ones that's just going to be fast-forwarded, which is a shame for the graphics, but, it's the music that kind of lets it down,
especially on Netflix, it comes up with skip intro within the first couple of seconds, so, yep, done.
I'll do that, thank you very much, click.
But the thing is with, with theme, main titles these days, right? I mean, most of the shows I watch don't have them. The Flash, it just comes up with a title card and then you move on with the episode. Arrow, same thing. A lot of other shows, I understand I don't watch a lot of cable television, so like Game of Thrones, that has a long title sequence every episode, and I think True Detective did as well. So I don't really watch them, so I'm not used to that these days. It feels like an echo of a bygone age for me, although I understand that's probably just a personal thing.
It could be that they'll slowly phase it out if the show manages to establish itself.
Maybe, although they put a lot of work into it, so I can see them keeping it.
I always think it's like an actor-agent type thing where the rule is, they'll be in it, but they want their name on the opening credits, and then the opening credits end up lasting a bloody hour because everyone's getting their name shown up on the screen and getting their own moment in front of a graphic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Indeed.
And that's why these things seem to go longer and longer and longer each time.
Well, it's like Jason Isaacs, he's credited and he's not even bloody in it, the first 2 episodes.
Well, I think that's because it's just a standard title sequence.
Yeah, although they did guest star Michelle Yeoh in those 2 as well, so...
Maybe it's easier to take someone out and replace them with something else than it is to just completely redo the credits.
Yeah, but at least it isn't a bloody Rod Stewart song. I'm quite happy about that.
Fair enough. Although, to be honest, to go off on a tangent, I seem to be the only person in the world, and possibly the universe, that thinks that the music just fit the visuals very well for Enterprise. I mean, I liked it. What can I say?
It kind of covered the theme of the show, though, with Enterprise. That was the thing, you know, it was like pioneering, let's venture forth, very sort of patriotic, styly music, just very over the top. But that kind of was the style of the show as well, though.
Although it's supposed to be a show about science, and they're singing about faith.
No, they're talking about humans taking their first steps into the unknown, and the song makes perfect sense. Forget about the faith bit. But, you know, it's been a long road, and it's been 100 years since the first warp, and then the NX-01 launching, so
yeah,
it has been a long road. It makes perfect sense to me.
Well, I do remember every season there was a rumour that they were going to replace it with the traditional titles, and they never did. There was even that one on StarTrek.com that was like Archer giving a variation of the speech.
No, that was just your... That was just your intolerant fans hoping for the best.
Although, I mean, I'll put it in the show notes. That StarTrek.com video of like what the opening titles might have been. That's quite nice.
Oh, I've not. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, well.
I look forward to reading the show notes.
You need to visit the show notes of this show. Wow.
Yes, I certainly will, so I can figure out exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Cool. So, theme tune and titles we've covered. So, on to characters. Out of the main characters of this show, we only actually see really two of them in these episodes. So we see Michael Burnham, and there was debate over her pronunciation, at least on this podcast, but it was just Michael. Although I've since been told that Brian Fuller likes to do traditional male names for female characters. So
he has got the writing credit.
Yeah, that's his input. I guess he must have created the character, I guess, even though he's not involved massively in the show from here on out. So Michael and Saru, I think he's going to be a main character.
Oh yes,
still, yeah.
I certainly hope so.
So interestingly, when it comes to this, what you have is the characters that you see. They all feel like a cohesive crew right from the bat. So it's almost like this is the last episode of a Shensho, or how do you pronounce it, a TV show that spins off into the Discovery.
Yes. What's what can I say? It feels like you already feel like you know them in a way.
There's that familiarity.
There is certainly a familiarity about it all when you first see them. You can identify that they're on some sort of mission when they're on the planet, and obviously it's not gone as well as it should do. That's Star Trek for you. Beam down something goes wrong.
Yeah, I really like Captain Giorgio.
I do as well. What's confusing me, I know this is a massive spoiler, so if you haven't heard the spoiler alert, mute now. What confuses me is she dies, but she's credited with 15 episodes.
I wonder if they'll revisit her. There'll be flashbacks.
I think there'll be a lot of flashbacks.
Yeah. It's quite possible because Michelle Yeoh is such an accomplished actor. It would be a shame for her only to be in that 1.5 2 episodes. Let's just call it. Yeah. It would be a crying shame. So I'm hoping that they revisit, because there was an element of time jumping. I mean, there was a bit where it said 7 years earlier. Yeah. So maybe we'll see more of that.
And I really liked that opening chat that they had. It was like, it's been 7 years, why are you still here? And it's almost like a dig at the whole Riker-Picard thing, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I did pick that up. I thought, that's a nice little homage, actually.
And there were elements of her calling her number one and everything like that, which I kind of noticed.
Which is also a nod to the cage in that sense as well. Yeah. But I think I really like the angle of Michael being raised by Vulcans. I don't think it needed to be Sarek, but that's another issue. But raised by Vulcans is interesting because she approaches all of her issues, at least on the surface, logically, but there's that emotion that creeps in. So, Klingons killed her family, so therefore she will react passionately to Klingons. When it comes to exploration, she's really excited, and so on. Yeah,
we've basically got a human version of Spock there. She's got the logic, but she's got the emotions, and even more so. So she's probably she seems to be fighting more to keep the logic this time. Spock was always trying to understand the emotions, whereas Michael, it's going to take a bit of getting used to referring to her with a male name, but that's just the way it goes. Is knows the emotions and is trying to not let them control her, but she fails.
Yeah, it's almost a flip on Spock's conflict.
Yes.
So yeah, he's trying to suppress his emotions, where she's trying to, no. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes, yeah, indeed. I couldn't quite articulate what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say either. It was just she's a flip on Spock, but she isn't. But she is.
Yeah. But,
yeah, and yeah, I do think she is a sort of inverse Spock, but it'll be. I'm looking forward to seeing how they sort of play with that a little bit. I don't know if the whole Sarek thing is something that is going to play in later. I just hope it isn't an excuse so they can get a young Spock on the show. But
he'd be about 15 at this stage, wouldn't he? Something like that.
Something like that.
So that's the bit that's playing in the back of my head, is that the only reason they've done it is to do some form of young Spock thing in the background. But
or would he not be on the Enterprise by this point, actually?
Not if he's 15. But then, hang on. How old is he? The Enterprise. Think about it. The Enterprise was a good 10, maybe 15 years old by the time Kirk took command.
But the implication is that Kirk and Spock are relatively similar ages. Well, Shatner and Nimoy are, so Kirk and Spock, and it's in any kind of secondary media you get, and including the 2009 film, they are, they're born at like the same time.
Yeah, they're fairly similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible. I don't think that we're going to see Sarek again, because James Frain, who plays him, was only billed for one episode, apparently.
Unless IMDb's not up to date.
It's quite possible.
If he's only billed for one episode, he's already been in two, so,
This is possible.
Plus, his role in Michael's life is too important. I don't think there's been enough there.
I think we'll see. I do think we'll see more of him, and I hope so as well.
I saw a little bit of the after show that they have put on Netflix, and they had the actor on there who was saying that they were going in to film episode 15 or something. So,
it's maybe buggers off for a while.
I presume he might be working for that, but...
Yeah, the issue I had with Sarek, I have no problem with James Frain's performance. I thought he did a really good job, and even him playing Sarek, it's like, he's got that kind of crotchety thing down that Sarek felt like when they were in his one appearance in the original series. He's certainly better than the guy that played him in the 2009 movie. But the problem was, there's nothing about that character that needs to be Sarek, specifically. Nothing. Couldn't Michael have been raised by any Vulcan?
Yes. I don't think it had to be Sarek. I think that was more fan service, more here's a Vulcan that here's an established character from the universe for you to identify with. I think that it's more to do with that.
And there was also by the way, there's a little bit of my soul inside you, so we can communicate across the galaxy. And what?
I don't know.
That's convenient.
Yeah, I know.
If we're willing to entertain that some things are different, then why not entertain that an obviously psychic race can do that. I mean, they do mind melds.
Well, there's previous for that anyway, because Trip and T'Pol had a similar bond. So
if we can accept that they can mind meld, and then Trip and T'Pol can have dreams with the same themes and same characters in them, then this isn't too much of a stretch, really.
Yeah, it's just the fact that Sarek is not close to his own son because he joined Starfleet. And he's quite happy to, accept phone calls from a Starfleet officer that he also raised, or helped to raise, apparently.
Well, it's also...
There are issues there.
There are other issues. There are other reasons why Spock and Sarek didn't see eye to eye.
Yeah, but the Starfleet one was a big one.
Yes, but it wasn't the only thing.
No.
But in this case, we have someone who's not his daughter, who's human. Obviously, it's slightly different. I mean, I don't have a particular problem with that. Maybe it'll get explained further on down the line.
Yeah, I need to see how it goes, yeah.
Indeed. I mean, I don't think we've got enough information there, really, to go on.
Yeah, and I was thinking that the second episode might explain more why this guy is Sarek, other than the fact he's just there on a hollow communication thing. But the second episode didn't adequately explain why it had to be Sarek either.
No.
So that's why I still have a problem with it.
Fair
but
enough.
Other than that, he's fine. He's a very good Sarek. Other than that, and the relationship he has with Michael feels quite genuine, and I quite like the kind of the cracks in his emotional shields when he talks to her as well. There's just little bits of, well, I'm kind of glad you're not dead, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That's good.
But then smacks her in the face with, if I wouldn't be risking my my health for such sentimentalities as to say goodbye. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's Vulcan.
Yeah.
I liked that bit. That was like, yeah, that's right back down to the nitty-gritty Vulcanness.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what they would say.
Of course, and it's exactly the kind of thing that Sarek would say as well, so at least from what we know of him. Remember, he only appears once in the original series, which is not an awful lot to go on.
Although
when
we
you
did,
meet him
we did see the character a few times in the Next Generation as well, so we do have have something to hark back to.
Oh, when you meet him in the movies, he's much softer, though. He's much more tolerant and much more relaxed and all that stuff.
He's still a hard ass.
Yeah, but not as much.
I mean, he's still okay. Maybe it was Bendis syndrome. But he still steadfastly refused to discuss Spock at times. So he was still a hard ass.
But you saw a much more kind of familiar relationship with his son in the films.
Films?
Yeah, in the original series movies.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So yes, indeed. I was talking about the Next Generation here. He's more hard ass there.
Yeah. Well, he's gone mental essentially in those films, in those episodes. Yeah. Yeah, Michael, really interesting. I like the way she just becomes really excited about the prospect of exploration, and she's very committed to the Starfleet ideals as well. It's about we've discovered something strange, we need to look at it. None of this, let's just leave it alone. What is it? I can't not know. And her risk-taking attitude as well, I quite like that. And how committed she is to protecting the ship, also like that.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's arguable whether she makes the right decision or not, in terms of mutiny, essentially, but I can see why she made that decision.
Yeah, I can too. I just think I personally think she went a wee bit too far.
Probably.
Knocking out the captain, never a good move for your career, to be honest.
Oh, we've all been there, though.
Well, we've all worked to punch our boss.
Oh, yeah.
But to be fair, it went somewhere that Star Trek hadn't been, because it was always either the captain saw sense with what the first officer was trying to convince him of, or the captain insisted, no, that's it, we're doing my course of action, I'm the one with the 4 pips, that's that, and then the first officer went, oh yeah, okay then. We've never actually seen them step over the line and knock their captain out with a Vulcan pinch. That was just, I was looking at the screen and said, did she just nerve pinch her?
So that's exactly what I wanted to say, is that, I'm so glad that they did that, because it's something different. Like you say, they've sort of changed it up a little bit. You've not had the captain talking them down and them agreeing and going, okay, fine, captain, and it all working out. You've not had the first officer talking around, as much as he does talk around eventually to doing the sort of ship invasion towards the end. She didn't talk around to firing first. So I like that. It breaks it apart from the norm.
There's also the fact that she does help save the ship, and it turns out that to a degree she was right, as in she was right about what the Klingons were at least planning to do. But normally whenever they do that in Star Trek, you've got whoever the character is that does something extreme to get their point across. You'll have whoever it was they betrayed eat a piece of humble pie by the end of the episode and be like, "You were totally right. Your judgment was on point here. I just didn't listen." But no, her career's over as a result of this.
Yep.
Well, obviously it isn't, because there are 12, 13 more episodes to go. But she's stripped of rank, put in prison. So even though she helped save the ship and arguably the Federation to a degree, she's punished. And that punishment will stick, and it's an interesting setup.
The ends do not justify the means.
Yeah.
And
that's good.
and there's no reset. That's brilliant. It's going to be interesting to see exactly was this a flashback, and in the next couple of episodes we're going to see her on the Discovery, or is she going to be picked up by the captain of the Discovery because of her insights as Klingons? Who knows? Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
Well, that's the thing. Discovery hasn't really started yet.
Yeah.
This is kind of a prequel to what Discovery... This is a prequel focusing on this character. Mm-hmm. Because, most of the everyone else you see here won't really be seen. I mean, Michelle Yeoh is apparently credited for all 15, but this isn't the ship that we're spending our time on. This isn't the crew we're spending our time with. Mm-hmm. And that's different, because obviously every other Star Trek pilot has been about, here's your ship, here's your crew, here's your premise. But these episodes don't do that.
Yeah, it's all in the air. Who knows what's going to happen?
It's interesting though. I mean, normally it's like, well, this hasn't told me about the show I'm about to watch, but I think it's really good to get a kind of baseline, a baseline establishment of who Michael is as a person and how her world works. If she's going to be the main character, then it's good to know that this is where she came from, and this is something she needs to atone for, and this is going to be her arc. So it sets up her arc rather than the actual scenario.
It certainly does. It establishes the character, lets you know that she will go pretty far to do what she thinks is the right thing. So she's going to be a bit of a wild card. And the show is meant to focus on her. Yeah. And not the captain. The captain is going to be... and also starring, essentially.
Yeah. I would be surprised if the what's his name? Lorca, I think the next captain.
Gabriel Lorca, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's killed. At some point towards the end of the series or whatever.
Well, they haven't got Sean Bean playing the role, so.
No, but Jason Isaacs, he dies a lot.
Yeah, I suppose he does, yeah. He's a very underrated actor, if you ask me.
Oh, definitely, but yeah. I always get him mixed up with Jeremy Irons as well. I don't know why. I just do.
It would be a good way to introduce you to the new captain, to do a whole series and essentially of introducing your captain, and once Jason Isaacs' character is dispatched, moved on, promoted, demoted, locked in prison, whatever, that you end up with Michael as captain, and it means that you are getting that long introduction, because normally when you get introduced to the captain, they're there either in station already, or they're just being dropped off the boat on the first day kind of thing.
Yeah.
But with this, you're kind of getting a little bit of their backstory without it being tons of flashback episodes going, oh, I remember my youth, or I remember my first ship and when it all got destroyed. It's like you're actually seeing it, which might sort of inform later, and I think if that is the long plan, then it's a neat way of doing it.
Yeah, and it's good to see the character's old captain as well, because I thought Giorgio was really interesting, because normally in Star Trek, when they introduce other captains or admirals or something, they're useless, they're incompetent, because they're supposed to look bad to make the other characters look better, which obviously is not a good way to do it. But she was always competent. Her approach was different. That was the only thing. She was far more idealistic. She was saying, nope, I will not fire first. That's not how we do things. So her word was the last word. Whatever order she gave stood. So she conducted herself with authority, with integrity, and she wasn't shy with her opinions, and her point of view was clear and it made sense.
Yeah, well, that's what you want from a captain. A good one. So yeah, I agree with that. It's just a shame that it's a shame that she's not actually the series captain, because I thought she was actually quite good. But let's hope Lorca has similar attributes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good that she's not just obviously an idiot and that Michael just needs to supersede her because she's so useless.
If I were them, I would make Lorca kind of an opposite, because then you're going to have Michael coming in with our former captain sort of mindset and way of doing things in there, and it would be an interesting sort of conflict between the two, actually. Sort of trying to mould it to be our former boss,
Yeah. Yeah, it could be interesting. Although I don't think Jason Isaacs will play a kind of more reserved captain. I think he's going to be a hard ass. Just based on what I've seen him do before.
Yep, if the actors have any input in how their characters conduct themselves, yes, I can see that too. I can see he's going to be a bit of a hard ass, but I'm expecting him to be hard but fair.
Yeah, I think if they want to cast Jason Isaacs to be a captain, they want a particular kind of captain. That's my thinking, because he's a name, a relatively big name. So therefore, why, if they wanted to mould a completely different thing, then why not pick someone who historically has played that kind of thing? Yeah. So the characters. Saru, we don't know much about at this point, other than he's the voice of reason. He's a bit of a coward. He's let's not do this. I do like him, yeah. It's also his alien culture thing is very kind of very clear. You're either predators or prey. He has binary thinking.
Yep.
So he doesn't see the little nuances in between.
I can see if we do get to see him, if he's a regular, I can see him possibly developing and beginning to see the nuances and not quite so binary.
Well, yeah, he could be the Data Spock analog, couldn't he?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's the intention.
Yeah, because every series has one.
Every series, every series has one, but this one is a welcome one. This isn't we have to have someone struggling with humanity or struggling to understand why humans do what they do, but they've done it in a really good way.
Yeah. And I love the bit where he said, I'm a science officer, I can give you more insight than someone just reading off a monitor. And then he immediately just doesn't do that.
Yeah, see, I loved the script. Basically what they're saying. I loved the interactions in the crew. It's almost Joss Whedon like in the way that they interact with each other, and it's just so fresh. I heard a lot of stuff that I hadn't heard before in any Star Trek before. You actually heard them disagreeing with each other openly, and she pushed Saru out of the way. Yeah, and he didn't like that.
Although I would say that some of the dialogue was a little bit on the nose. The opening introduction to Michael and Giorgio was, as you know, we're on this planet to do this, and that would mean that this happens, and then it's like, well, you would have probably already had this conversation. And there was little things like when Giorgio says, she's having fun, right after she says, woohoo. It's like, yeah, okay, I know. And there was some of that, there was quite a lot of this. Characters are saying things that they shouldn't need to say because the other person should know it fine well.
Yeah, that's fair enough, but we don't.
Yeah, but that's always the difficult part when you've got characters that know each other and you need to explain it to the audience. How do you do that? And I think that the script didn't find the best way to do that.
Yeah, I was fine with it.
It wasn't a deal breaker by any means. I just couldn't help but notice it. Throughout, there was a lot of exposition.
I think there was a lot more of that in the first episode than there was in the second. In the second, it seemed to really improve. I don't know whether some of it was trying to introduce and set the scene without having to put sort of text on the screen and stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was. By the second episode, in fact, even halfway through the first, you already knew what was going on, so they didn't have to explain things quite as much. I think you just have to forgive them for the first few scenes on the planet, because they're trying to tell you exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, though interestingly, they didn't need to tell you what the Federation was or anything like that. So I can see how new Star Trek or new people that decide to tune into this without having seen Star Trek before might be slightly lost with some of it, because it doesn't do this kind of prologue thing to explain the entire premise to you. You just have to go along with it.
Exactly. I mean, CBS have said that you don't need to be an established Star Trek fan to watch Discovery, and I think part of that dialogue at the start was, in a way, for them just to kind of get them used to the idea of exactly what's going on, but not, as you say, not overloading it with with unnecessary dialogue and or narration.
Yeah,
I think they've made it so that you could come from the films, the sort of prime films, into this without having watched any of the Star Trek TV. So they are assuming a bit of knowledge there, but not like the vast canon that's come before. They're sort of going, right, well, you've maybe seen the 3 films that have been out. You'll be able to pick up this. We'll give you little drops and hints along the way, but there'll also be a bit of fan service in there for people that have watched quite a lot in the past.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a raft of Easter eggs throughout. The opening scene in the desert planet reminded me a little bit of the opening in Into Darkness, actually, because it was the whole thing about we need to stop a species from dying. That, the mechanics of it were very different, but the concept was the same. We need to do this without being seen, and then so that they largely get along with that. It even had the sort of ship flying close to the ground to pick them up kind of thing.
Yep, I liked how they had they've incorporated bits of the Kelvin verse into this, where you actually saw visible jets of thrusters as it was keeping itself from hitting the ground.
Yeah,
as it was beaming them up. I thought that was quite cool, because I've always liked that little bit from the new films.
Yeah. It's amazing how they could do a perfect Delta Shield insignia without being able to see what path they were going to be taking. Just by walking, it's incredible.
Well, you'd imagine people who are able to compute space trajectories at warp speeds would be able to do a basic 2D shape.
They can do a giant art attack on a planet without having seen the. without planning it in advance.
Yeah, it's a small thing.
Cool. Yeah, it's a very small thing. It's nitpicking. I like to nitpick.
We certainly know that you do.
So, kind of the story of these 2 episodes, it's centred on your resident Klingon T'Kuvma, who's a Kahless... he's a Kahless fanboy, let's put it that way.
Fanatic, yes.
Yeah, he's wanting to bring the Klingons back to that way of thinking, and his desire is for isolationism, which is interestingly relevant to today's world, as Star Trek often did. So, where the Federation take on the no, isolationism is bad side of the argument. When I watched the first episode, I thought there was going to be more to his plan, but it turned out it was just essentially the mystery aspect of it was that they just hadn't finished explaining it yet. And it was pretty simple, to be honest, but which I quite liked. It was a good introduction, and I think it will have consequences that ripple through the series. But actually, I was looking at it as this is the plot of the entire season, where it doesn't seem to be. It was just, there was a very particular problem they needed to deal with in these 2 episodes.
I don't think it's the whole series is going to be completely about the war. It's going to certainly there's a lot of it's going to be about the fallout of the first 2. This little battle that they had.
Yeah,
I'd say little, but there were deaths, so it's not very little. But I think it's going to be dealing with the fallout of that and bits and bobs in betweeny. I was quite shocked, actually, that he died.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like, oh, wow. Cool, I didn't see that coming. I expected him that he was going to be the lead baddie, and he's gonna pop up every now and then and just be a thorn in their side.
Well, it's the immediate hint, it calls back to Michael's conversation with Giorgio. It was, you kill him, he becomes a martyr.
Yes.
And you immediately see him being cradled by the albino Klingon guy, the
strange.
who's clearly going to pick up the mantle and be like, look at the Federation, they killed him. That's the reason we can't trust him, and we have to stick to our own guns, and we'll close our borders and all that stuff. So I think she's going to be proven right for creating a martyr out of Takuvma.
Indeed, but this time it was unintentional. It wasn't a deliberate act. It was. They didn't want to make him a martyr, but they have.
And do you know what? I kind of liked the fact that I was surprised in his death. I was exactly like you guys, where I was sort of sitting there thinking, oh, this is going to be the baddie that's now going to crop up, and every week you're going to see him sort of manipulating something in the background and everything. And then he was dead, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, this is taking a turn, and it's a really, exactly what I wanted, something different. Yep. They've not done the obvious. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good beginning to show this sort of Klingon uprising that's starting and, the houses uniting. I love the fact that you opened with the Klingons rather than opening with the planet scene.
Yeah.
The sort of big rousing speech to get his masses to show that everything's starting to brew up. I think doing that was excellent. I even like the sort of graphic where they come out from his eyes. It looks like a planet vortex thing. Very neat. Cool. Yeah. Very, very neat.
Doing everything in Klingon. That was awesome.
Yeah. Although, I had a busy day yesterday, as in when it appeared when I watched it. So I watched the second episode in the afternoon. I watched the first one, then I had to go out. And the second one I watched when I went home, and I was quite tired. And there's a lot of subtitles. And I kept nodding off. Not because I wasn't enjoying it, but just because I was tired. But I kept nodding off and having to rewind them. And the excessive Klingon speaking was... It was a bit much to keep reading, actually, I thought.
No, I thought it was quite good, because all too often you just heard a couple of choice phrases or words, and that was it. The rest of it was in English. I'm like, these are aliens. Let's hear them talk in their own language for once, and they've gone and delivered that. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. It was very immersive. You actually started to like the Klingons. I mean, I wasn't sure that I was going to like the Klingons as they are now. I just thought they're a little bit too different. The Klingons have always been incremental changes. These ones are just smack you in the face different. They look completely different to Klingons of old. But I actually like him now, and I'm actually. I was actually quite sad that Takuvma died, actually. I'm like, oh.
Well, I thought it was weird that the... I don't know, I thought it was weird that they changed them so heavily, although it's a nice update, and it does make them look more alien, actually. The weird thing I found was, you were talking about the Klingon speech, with no English, and then... During his opening monologue, the last line, "We come in peace," was in English.
Yeah,
and actually, I thought
that's what the Federation say.
Yeah, although I thought they were going to be doing a kind of Hunt for Red October style thing. That scene where it like zooms in and then suddenly they're talking English after that. And,
I can see that. Yeah, that then after that they speak English on screen. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
That would have been quite cool, actually. But, that's very stylistic for Hunt for Red October. It's like, okay, this is a turning on the translator for you, the audience, but everyone's still speaking like Russian. Or in this case, Klingon. I don't know, I struggle with subtitles myself, so I think there was a heavy reliance on Klingon speech, which made me struggle a bit. It meant I was paying less attention to what was going on in the scene as well.
I don't think it was a reliance as such. I was just like, they're Klingons, they're talking Klingon.
Yeah.
I mean... having them speak English would be a heavy reliance on the so-called translator.
Yeah.
I think it works if you're seeing them with Starfleet people and you're hearing the translation, but I like the fact that when you're seeing them talking amongst themselves, you're getting it in the Klingon dialect. The one thing that I did notice was it felt like some of the actors were struggling with it a bit.
Yes.
There was a lot of like one word, then stop, then say... next word, continue, which was going on. It seemed very like, I have learnt to say this way, and I will present it like so. And, I to be honest, don't envy them, because who are you going to learn from, really, to act in Klingon? So, but I did notice that a little bit,
I think the prosthetics might have made it difficult as well. It looked like it made them quite difficult to move their mouths and things.
Yeah, the teeth prosthetics that they've got in, it's both. It looks, from at least from my casual observation, that they've got both bottom and top teeth prosthetics in.
Yeah.
So that was certainly giving them the cotton wool in the mouth sound. Which I think is just a byproduct, but who's to say if you've got teeth like that, you wouldn't sound like that anyway?
Yeah, perhaps. I think I think some did better than others. I mean, there was a couple of kind of extras that were there to say one line, and that was them. And but the long conversations, it did become apparent that they were perhaps not as prepared for this as they should have been. And it's a problem when they're only supposed to be in a couple of episodes as well, But
some Klingon utterances do sound like that.
Yeah.
If you listen to them, sometimes it does sound like they're talking like this, almost Shatner-ish. It's just the way that the language is spoken.
Yeah.
So there might be an element of that as well. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not in any way an expert in Klingon, so I wouldn't really be able to tell you, but maybe there are some Klingon speakers out there right now that are going, actually, you're talking a load of rubbish. They were talking exactly as they should.
Maybe. I do like the state of the Empire in these episodes, though, the idea that it's fragmented. They need someone to rally them round. It kind of brings them back to the whole Kalis creating the Empire in the first place. We've forgotten the unforgettable was quite a striking statement kind of thing.
It's also a nice little, I found anyway, you didn't see much of the Klingons in Enterprise, and those you did see, there were only one or two ships, so maybe the Empire was fractured back then as well, and this is just going on from that.
Yeah. And they have to unite the 24 houses. They've not been seen by Starfleet for a while, which I found interesting. They just haven't encountered them, so there's this idea that there's a lot of internal crap going on that they work through.
The implication apparently being, and I've seen several people suggest this, is that after their dealings with Starfleet during the Enterprise series, they've decided to just not be in contact with us.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough.
Yeah.
We'd be nothing but troublesome to them, so we just leave them alone.
It's like, a large part of our population have lost their Reggies, and whatever. Yeah.
Who knows? We have problems of our own. Let's just leave these federations alone for the time being. Yeah. So
this is kind of the start of the... I guess the series might end with the establishment of the neutral zone between the Federation and the Klingons, and...
It's possible.
Yeah.
It really depends on how much and how close to continuity they want to stick. I mean, I was having a conversation earlier that sometimes just breaking away from continuity, saying yes, thank you, it's been a nice ride, holding to the canon, but now it's time to just break with it and spread our wings a little.
Yeah, and I think that naturally brings us on to the kind of design elements of it. I mean, this is obviously looks far more advanced than the original series because we live in the 21st century and we have better tech than they had. Holodeck or hologram communications, for instance, aren't far away for us. So why wouldn't they have them, instead of view screens?
Yep.
They dallied with that a bit in Deep Space Nine, the holo communicator for an episode.
And then they just forgot about it.
Yeah, and it makes more sense. I mean, you hail someone, you get a full 3D image of them in front of you. I also like the fact that it flickers and stuff, telling you the technology's still not there. Still not perfect, but it works. And it's cool. You still have things like transporters and stuff. The bridge looks quite sleek and technically advanced, although they still don't have circuit breakers for their consoles, so they still blow up in their faces.
But in spectacular fashion, there's holes in the side of the bridge and everything like that appearing. It's just spectacular. It's awesome. You can as I was saying to Chris earlier, you can tell that these episodes have a massive budget. I mean, $8.5 million per episode.
Yeah, it's mental.
The two-parter felt like a film. With it, the visuals of it, the bridge, it doesn't look like it's been knocked together over a couple of weeks and made out of wood. It looks like it's made out of metal and glass.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic. It's just a shame that we're not going to see that, but from the screenshots we've seen, the disco, as I call it, bridge is going to be even better.
Disco bridge sounds awesome. If it does not have a glitter ball in the middle of the disco bridge and sort of a light up panel floor that they can sort of shimmy across as they head to their consoles, sort of tagging each other in and out as they're taking their positions.
What happens is when they go to red alert, the mirror ball just starts like the disco thing. It's just
formal evening wear is a white suit.
Yeah.
with a black shirt, and everybody's strikes that Travolta pose.
That's going to be amazing. Yeah,
I'd watch that.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely. I love the design of the bridge. I thought it was really neat, and I mean, like we were saying earlier on, I think some of the battle scenes in this are better than I've seen in the films. It was spectacular the way they did it. Big lumps coming off the side of the bridge. You're seeing them getting sealed back up again. You're looking at the damage visible damage that's being done to the ship. It's not just like a couple of lights out the nacelles and a bit of smoke coming out the back. Yeah. It is, you are seeing physical chunks of ship coming off.
Was it me, or did one of those people, one of the bridge crew, actually disappear through one of those holes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they did, yeah. Although there was still a bit of the shields down 2%.
Yeah, you have to at the end of the day. That's another little nod towards Star Trek of old. Also, all the noises that the bridge is making, it's all It's all Star Trek. You can hear all the noises that you expect to hear in Star Trek. They're just slightly repurposed and coming together a little bit quicker.
Yeah, someone went to TrekCore and downloaded all the sounds.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd also like that you could have a discussion and a debate with the computer, which I thought was interesting. It's like you've never seen that before. Normally it's, computer deactivate this, and the computer goes, yeah, sure, and off it goes. But no, you have to sit there and have a 15-minute debate about how long you're going to live before the computer decides, all right, sure, why not?
Yeah, it's almost like entering the extra data, isn't it?
Yeah.
As in the, I can't deactivate the force field because you don't have the authority. It's like, okay, why don't you consider the fact that I'm going to die in 5 minutes? And like, yeah, okay, whatever. And we'll deactivate the force. And like Burnham out-logicking a computer was quite an interesting little scene.
I liked that. And the computer just going, yeah, you've got a point there, more or less,
Yeah.
So, I thought that was good. I wonder, do we know who voices the computer?
No idea.
It's a very nice, clear voice.
Yeah. It's obviously the computer works differently than it does in the original series. It's usually they have to put a bit of plastic in and wait for it to spool up. But in this, it's the much more next generation style where it's always ready to listen to you.
I mean, we've already got computers that can talk back to you almost naturally.
Yeah.
So we can't go back to the computer in TOS because it wouldn't work. Everybody would be like, "What the heck is this?"
Yeah. What's going on here? Yeah.
The computer is Tazia Valenza. Is the name of the actress that does that. She's done a few sort of animated shows and video games and things.
There we are. Someone new then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally didn't Google that. I knew that off the top of my head, honest.
It's just your best friend.
Yeah, totally. Meeting up for coffee later.
Someone posed the question, if Majel Barrett Roddenberry was still alive, do you think they would have gotten her to do the computer?
Maybe not, actually.
Possibly not. Maybe not with as interactive as it is now. But then again, that's not a reflection on the actress.
No.
Sorry,
Just
actor.
They're doing something new. That's
Indeed.
all. Well, in 2009, all they did was she had 2 lines. And that
she was in it.
Yeah.
That was a little. This is just to keep the fans happy. Thing, but it was, and that was the last we ever heard of her.
If they really wanted to, they could dredge up enough computer chat from her and just fill in the blanks. You know, she's probably said pretty much everything they'll need her to say in these things. So,
make it yourself.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. That was a good sequence, and the battle stuff was really cool.
It was,
and I really like that the it's less about the spectacle, even though it is there, but it was focused on the characters. So what you had. Especially when you had a fleet of Klingon ships outside and it was about the mutiny inside the ship. So it's, what's important is in here, not out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I really like. It's, you understand. Whoever's working on this understands why we like this crap.
Yes, I think a lot of people had the feeling that CBS don't know what they're doing. Actually, and I was one of them. I was. So far, they had not done anything to convince me that they knew what Star Trek was about. But, and I will admit it, I was wrong. They do know. They have been listening. And I'm fairly certain a lot of that is thanks to Brian Fuller. But obviously, you've got to remember Nicholas Meyer is also involved still. So his influence is going to help.
Yeah.
And Alex Kurtzman as well. He's been involved in Trek in some fashion. So,
well, his job in this show was just to get people in place.
Yeah,
as I understand it,
he did the right thing.
Yeah,
he's done a good job.
He hired the right people. Yeah.
Yep, and so I'm hoping that these 2 episodes weren't just a fluke.
Yeah, that's always a possibility. Yeah, I think in terms of aesthetic, it resembles the Abrams or the Kelvin verse more than the Prime timeline. Although it doesn't really matter. I mean, it is set post the Divergence because of the fact that Kelvin would have been attacked, years ago. In either.
Yes, no, you're quite right. Yeah, you're quite right. It is. Although I can see how it does slot into the Prime timeline. If you look at some of the, especially the phaser and the communicator. I mean, the phaser that they're using looks like a primitive version of the phaser from the original series.
But it fires the bursts instead of the beam instead.
Yes, because the beams these days, it's a bit too, let's just say, retro. They're using today's sensibilities when it comes to what we find as advanced weaponry.
Well, it means you have more compelling gun battles that way as well.
Precisely, yes, indeed. But the phaser does look like it's a precursor to what we see in the original series, and I like that. That's a nice touch because it's also got the cylinder, what looks like a rotating barrel at the front, which we see in the cage briefly. Yeah. So I like that, and the communicator it looks like a Star Trek communicator.
Yeah, flip phone.
Yeah, it does. It just that does it for me. It's like, okay, these guys are respecting the history, and they're not completely spitting in our faces and expecting us just to take it. Yeah, and I keep coming back to this with wherever Nick mentioned in one of our previous podcasts the whole. It's like comic book artists drawing things differently, and there's one example I think of. It was a Spider-Man mini-series that was kind of set just after he got his powers, but it was written fairly recently. So from the writer's point of view, they imagined that it took place 13 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so the world looks like it does 13 years ago, but you still have like elements of it from the 60s Spider-Man stuff. So, people use computers, they use phones, but also the art is kind of that era-esque. I mean, it's not quite there, but it's similar. And
I think for this, it's just, this is what the 23rd century looks like now that we have so much better technology and better understanding of how to make special effects, and, we have the money to spend on it. This is just what it looks like now, and
Absolutely.
if you can just imagine that the original series will look like this soon. They haven't used technology that actively contradicts anything that they had, at least so far.
Yeah, indeed. They're on an old ship with old transporters. It's not state of the art and stuff like that. At least in the first 2 episodes, anyway. Well, who knows what the Discovery is going to be like? But no, you're quite right. It is today's interpretation of the future.
Yeah,
we couldn't go back to the original series if no one would accept that nonsense.
No.
Seriously, I mean, it works in fan film to a certain extent because you've got a very small audience who enjoy that thing, but you couldn't do a series with something that looks like the original series today.
Yeah, and you can see people getting really bent out of shape out of the Delta Shield insignia on the uniform.
Absolutely, but that's why everybody knows.
Yeah, although interestingly, it's not exactly the same. It has a line through it near the corner. So
there's a significant step.
Yeah,
I still feel they try too hard to be different there.
Well, it could be quite funny if someone comes out with the fact it's not exactly the same. We have that little line.
we did the minimum to make it different.
It's like, well, you said it's exactly the same, and it's not. So the Enterprise one is just slightly different.
A slightly different shade of metal.
Yeah. Look, the Starfleet Design Bureau are really not that. They aren't that innovative. They just they're all bored. They hate their jobs. They're never getting promoted. They're stuck in dead end jobs. All they do is just whatever. You need a new symbol for this ship. Here it is.
To be honest, I never enjoyed the idea of every ship having its own logo, its own symbol.
It doesn't matter.
I never really liked it, so it doesn't matter to me that they're using the Delta.
I didn't mind it in Enterprise, where every ship has its own patch. That was cool.
Yeah, that's cool because it's the beginning of Starfleet, and they're learning how to do things.
And they're following it like Navy ships do at the moment.
Precisely.
Every Navy ship, every naval unit all have their own little insignia. You'll have one for your unit, one for your ship, one for the team that you're working with, one for the mission that you're currently on, all that.
Absolutely, and obviously that falls by the wayside as it becomes more routine and every day that humans are in space. You're quite right, and I like the idea that it's just that they just use the Delta because it's everybody knows what the Delta is. You will have had to been living under a rock to not know that Delta means Star Trek.
Yeah, and I don't personally have an issue with it at all. I can just see the nerd rage coming. How can you like this crap because they did this wrong?
Oh, yep. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it already. Seriously, I don't like the fact that the pips, the ranks, are on the badge.
I don't mind that. Yeah, actually, my favourite.
I'm not hating it.
My favourite comm badge out of the Next Generation era was the one that doesn't really happen. The Future Imperfect one where the rank is on the badge.
Never liked that idea.
No.
It seemed cumbersome then, and it still seems cumbersome.
Yeah. It just means you can't borrow your mate's badge if you're late for work.
I like the uniforms overall. I think the uniforms look all right. They're not too bright and luminous. They've not gone for the change of shirt colour really, apart from the sort of bits down the side. And that sort of dictates who you are. It's quite a subtle way of doing it. Yeah, but it's
silver. You've got silver, bronze, and gold highlights for each department. Gold is obviously command. I'm not sure what silver and bronze are. One's science and one's engineering. I don't know which one's which just yet.
And there's bound to be a medical one. You see a doctor for a minute.
Oh yeah,
or so.
They're wearing white.
Yeah.
Medical seems to wear white all over.
Yeah, so that all the blood shows up while they're while they're operating.
Absolutely.
You want them to come out looking like they've been working in a butcher's shop for the day.
Yeah. Well, the white gowns, it comes from back in the days of yore when your butchers would sometimes be your surgeon.
Well, they had all the knives and everything, What's the difference?
Absolutely.
of course.
I like the idea that the doctors are wearing white.
Yeah.
It makes them instantly identifiable when you see them walking along a corridor.
Yeah. And the ship designs themselves, you don't get a good look at most of them. They're all right.
Yeah, they don't seem to be. They're not objectionable. I like them far better than what we see in the Kelvinverse.
Yeah.
They're more grounded in Trek history. It's the Kelvinverse ships. It's like someone who's never seen the Enterprise has been asked to draw it and just do whatever you want.
Yeah,
go nuts with it. Yeah,
yeah, it's huge nacelles which are too narrow, too long, and not sitting on the pylons properly. The whole thing looks tail heavy and stuff like that. But in this, it looks like. I wouldn't be surprised if John Eaves had a say in the design of the ships, because it looks like something he'd pen up.
They're pretty similar to the principles of most Star Trek ships, anyway.
Yes, but at the same time, different.
Yeah.
John Eaves, for the uninitiated, he's the guy who, amongst other things, designed the Enterprise E, the Sovereign class. Yeah. He's been...
and the NX-01, I think?
Yeah, actually, no. That was Doug Drexler.
Oh, right, okay.
If I remember correctly. I think he had a little bit of input, but Doug Drexler was he was the main guy who penned the NX-01. Mm-hmm. Eaves has been with Star Trek since... he's been around for a while. He also did the modifications of the Excelsior to make it into the Enterprise B.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a quick history on who he is.
Well, the Shensho is got nice red decals all over the hull and stuff. It looks unique and interesting, and obviously that's the best rendered one because it's the one we see the most of. But the others are a bit more simplistic, slightly, because you only get quick glimpses of most of them.
Yeah, indeed. It looks like it does look like a very early Starfleet to me.
Yeah,
it does. It looks like they're keeping round about the same idea.
Yeah.
Saucer section with nacelles.
Yeah.
A couple of them have got bits and bobs coming out of them. Some of them, one or two of them, are barely even saucer sections, which is perfectly fine. It's a burgeoning Starfleet. They haven't got all the technology that we know from the Next Generation, so that they can build big, massive starships that look really, really super cool. They look functional.
Yeah. I wasn't hugely impressed by the Klingon ships, though.
Yeah. I think they'll grow on me. But they're very, very ornate, let's just say.
Just give me a bird of prey and I'm happy.
Yeah, indeed. I don't see what was wrong with the bird of prey as it was, but I can see why they went down that route. Because they've completely redesigned the Klingons. Why not redesign their ships as well?
The 200-year-old Nagvar was a bit weird.
Yeah, it was. Especially the outer hull was comprised almost entirely of coffins. That's a bit morose. But
it was a bit of a big black death ship kind of thing, although it was pretty old.
Absolutely, but hey, you can clearly identify them as being a very alien race. They've got a completely different design style, and I liked that. It's fresh. Yeah.
And we'll maybe see more traditionally Klingon designs as the series progresses.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I think the ship designs are really neat. Exactly like you guys have said, you've kind of hit the nail on the head before I've got here, but they're similar but different. They follow the design aesthetic we're used to, but they seem to have got it bob on. I don't know whether this is why they've had quite a few delays and people were all going, oh, why is it being delayed? Oh, it means it's going to be pants. I have the feeling that a lot of the delays have been them trying to get everything right. They've been looking at things like ship design and everything and going, would this fit in? Does this look better? What have people's complaints been about it in the past? So it went down and went, right, well, we'll fix that, we'll tweak this, and there we go, it works,
They actually delayed the show because they found out when my 30th birthday was. And they wanted to make sure it premiered on the same day.
You're telling everyone it's your 30th. We all know it's your 40th.
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
Belatedly.
It's now internet official.
Old Father Time Mackenzie over there.
That's it, Father Time. And Star Trek Next Generation is slightly younger than me. So check out those two podcasts.
Could be worse. You could be 37.
Could be. Yeah, it could be a lot worse. Could be a lot worse. But
Indeed.
yeah, new Star Trek.
Yes, I think.
Great.
I think the whole reason why everything's so ornate for the Klingons, basically, is because they didn't have to build miniatures. It's all CGI.
Yeah.
And done properly, and it looks good. It gives them the ability to do all sorts of neat stuff. So, but yeah, new Star Trek, and it's been a long time, a very long
years.
time, since I've been having to wait for the next episode.
I know.
It feels, I literally feel 12 years younger. Even Enterprise, I never get caught on TV during its run.
I was always watching Enterprise as it was coming.
Yeah, back in the day, I didn't have Sky, and the internet wasn't quite so developed that you could find stuff to download it from.
Well, speak for yourself. I heard that some people could do that.
Well, there was the ability, but you had to know where to find it, and I was a little bit more naive back then.
And also, if your mum picked up the phone to have a conversation, your dial-up connection would disappear.
Like, oh yeah, mother, that episode was 98% downloaded, and now I'm going to have to start again. Thank you very much.
I was halfway through a JPEG there, you know.
Yeah, indeed. I almost got to see the crotch. No, sorry, I meant.
What was it? The Simpsons comic book guy. It's like, oh, Captain Janeway.
Yeah.
She's appearing line by line.
Yeah, it's like, oh my word. And the first line is blurred, and it has to go over across again. Yeah. Oh, I remember that pain. But yeah.
No, I had broadband 12 years ago.
But I didn't.
Barely, but I did.
I didn't, and so I had to wait until I could, until little later on, and then I binge watched the Enterprise.
Did you not have Channel 4? It appeared on Channel 4.
I think so, but yeah, I was one of these people. Still am to a certain extent. That there's always something on. There's always something going on, and I'm not always in. I very rarely actually catch anything on TV. I mean, my TV has not been on since about. July.
Oh, jeez.
I watch everything on my...
right?
Anything's on my computer, and when I'm not in front of my computer, I'm not watching anything.
Fair enough. But yeah, we all have to wait for new Star Trek, which is... Yeah, it's a weird feeling.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, there used to be a one-day convention in Glasgow called the Away Team, and that's where we would catch up with the latest Voyager. To some point, the latest DS9 as well. But when DS9 finished, it was the latest Voyager.
Yeah.
And it was once a month. I think it was either on the first or the last Sunday of each month. I can't remember which one. Doesn't matter. And I genuinely remember looking forward to it because there would be episodes that we wouldn't see here for a good 6-7 months. I mean, there was no Facebook then, so there was nobody doing spoilers unless you actually went into a forum. But then you could quite easily see that it was a spoiler because everybody marked the post spoiler alert, so you didn't accidentally
And arguably
stumble.
there was nothing really to spoil in Voyager anyway.
Well, that's your opinion. But the excitement of, hey, there's a new episode to see. You know, it's back, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm already eagerly anticipating it, and it'll arrive on. Apparently, it arrives on streaming on Sunday, but I don't know what time it gets to us at.
I'm sure I read somewhere that the first two episodes would air back to back on CBS television, and then would be immediately available online along with a third episode.
The first one... No, it was always the first one was going to air on CBS, which it did. And then immediately afterwards, the second episode became available on All Access. So it's like, you want to know what happens next? Get to your computer,
right.
you know? Like...
Now I'm starting to understand. Now I'm understanding all the hate posts saying, I only saw half the first episode.
Yeah. So it was the record of... apparently there was a record number of sign-ups for CBS All Access. Yeah. Whereas, next month there'll be a record number of cancellations.
I'm sure.
As people don't want to use up their free month.
It's possible. I also just stumbled across something saying Star Trek Discovery is CBS's most pirated show so far.
Well, guess what? Putting it behind a paywall on a digital platform, and somehow pirates have got a hold of it already. Imagine.
That does have me concerned for the sustainability of the show.
Well, it hasn't hurt Game of Thrones any, really.
No, but people are the Game of Thrones. It does appeal to a wider audience, and it was on a platform that people already have.
I think that's where we're lucky over here that it's on Netflix rather than being on a standalone platform. You know, a lot of people here will already have Netflix, whereas you're basically making it the only thing or one of the few things that people will want to sign up for a completely new platform over in the States.
Indeed, which means a new desktop box, you know, a little box that sits next to your computer and your TV and everything. That's how it works over there. So that's more wiring and stuff like that.
Well, I think you can probably get the app on like Xbox and stuff like that.
You can, but apparently the on Xbox the app is very janky.
All right, okay.
Very clanky indeed. Apparently, it's not working quite as well as it should. That's just one person's opinion. It's just one of my friends, but I do trust what he says. I do feel, however, we know that the CBS CEO Les Moonves doesn't like Star Trek. He's the one that cancelled Enterprise just as it was getting into its prime. Soon as CBS took over UPN and therefore got the rights to Star Trek, one of his first moves, just like the Director General of BBC in 1987, was to cancel. He cancelled Doctor Who. Second, he sat down behind the desk. Right, cancel that crap show, he says. The first thing Les Moonves did is cancel Enterprise, and you knew he didn't want anything more to do with Star Trek because he had the sets bulldozed and all the costumes and everything sold off. So you knew he didn't plan on bringing Star Trek back.
Yeah, and now you're at the point where they've spent a lot of money remastering
Netflix.
Original. Yeah. No, the
original Next Generation. Yeah, well, that was only because they basically had to force that through the door.
Yeah, and then Netflix have some stake in Discovery, I think, but it's a CBS produced show. So
what I understand from the deal is Netflix actually stumped up the production costs, $40 million, something like that.
Right.
Therefore, they've gained the right to show it on all territories other than America and Canada, which has worked out well for them.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't do too well in the US, because that's all that CBS are probably going to look at, the ratings for their show on their network, or in this case CBS All Access, they'll see that it's not doing so well, and they might just cancel it.
Well, it's doing well so far, so I don't think
it certainly is. Yeah. I mean, it's the audience reaction is roughly similar to the Orville.
Yeah.
So who knows? I'm hoping it does well, and it does well enough that Netflix at the very least go, dudes, let's get season 2 signed off and let's get going. Let's get. But I've still got that little bit of distrust in CBS.
It might be that if it does well on the Access and at the beginning, they might eventually air it on actual television, and then it'll pick up again.
Yeah, who knows?
It depends on if they stick to their guns and they go, no, it's going to be on this digital platform only because we want money, rather than putting it on proper telly.
They are already quoted as saying Star Trek doesn't work on TV. I'm like, did you not pay attention to the last 40 years?
I think from a financial point of view, it's often had pretty diminishing returns, financially speaking, because Star Trek shows have historically been the most expensive TV shows that networks had to produce.
Indeed, sci-fi shows are not easy because everything has to be bespoke.
Yeah,
which is why if you pay attention, I'm sure you've noticed this in Next Generation, Voyager, DS9, and even Enterprise, a lot of the set pieces are the same. They've just been repainted.
Yeah.
That's why they were able to make those shows
because stock footage.
Because they had stock footage, and they also had a lot of sets just sitting there. All they needed to do is rearrange them slightly, paint them a different color, and there you go. You got Alien of the Week bridge. Once they destroyed all that was gone. their excuse was we don't have enough room to store it. Well, that's bullshit because you've still got the Wizard of Oz sets in storage. Once they destroyed all that, got rid of all their costumes, all the props, all the models and everything like that, they would have to start from scratch, which is probably why it wouldn't work initially on TV. But now that they've had Netflix go, here's 140 million, go forth and make Star Trek.
Yeah, it has to be profitable before they air it because there's no scope to take a risk on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in that case, it's what they said is kind of correct. But if they were meaning in general, it would never work on TV. They obviously didn't pay attention to the 40 years prior to that.
Yeah, I think that's what I don't think they meant conceptually as a television show. It doesn't work. I think they just mean in the practicalities of production. How television is now, especially science fiction, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for them as a financial model because it's an expensive thing. I'm sure similar issues have been raised about The Expanse and things like that.
The Expanse is awesome.
Very, very good. I can highly recommend The Expanse and the books as well, if you really want to.
The fact that it's also a Netflix thing. Netflix seem to know a good thing when they see it.
Yeah, generally speaking, some of their original movies are kind of cack. And
yeah. So, some of the program that we have in the UK anyway is a little bit janky. Some of the films and stuff like that. I was recently in the US, and when I signed into my Netflix account, it switched it to the US Netflix. My word, they've got much better stuff.
Oh, of course, we get less than a third of the library.
Yeah, they've got much more stuff. I spent almost an entire hour flicking through things that I hadn't seen on the UK Netflix. I'm like, this is just awesome. I need to get myself a US account.
Well, it's harder to do now.
It certainly is, but I do have a. Ooh.
We should table this discussion.
Yeah,
because
no. I'm not going to say what just came into my head, but I think I figured it out. Anyway, Star Trek is back.
Yes.
We're back to the heady days of eagerly, nail-bitingly waiting for the next episode.
Yes.
And wondering what's going to happen. And that's just got me really excited. And I'm about 20 years old again now.
And from what I can tell, the serialization aspect is going to be more character-based than it is plot-based, which is good because they are still trekking through space and need to find stuff. So, I'm kind of glad that there's not a persistent Klingon menace that's going to turn up everywhere every week and then escape every week. I quite like the idea of a redemption arc if that's what they're going to do. I think that keeping the serialization focused on the characters works better for Star Trek because it's less limiting in terms of what you're doing with plotting.
Yes, I'm looking forward to what they're going to do. I mean, the gloves are off. They're obviously out to tell a story, and it's not the traditional Star Trek way of doing things. How they are actually doing it, and I'm perfectly fine with it. I know a couple of diehard fans who really can't get into the aesthetic and really can't get past the point that they're looks like they're throwing cannons out the window slightly, or airlocking it to use sci-fi parlance. But I'm fine with that. It's time. Sometimes you just need to brush off the cobwebs and start afresh.
Yeah, it's definitely fresh. It's modern. It's slick. It's interesting. Yeah, it's all good. And I reckon we should get together around about hiatus time, to see how the season's going.
Yes, mid-season break, definitely. That's probably going to be just before Christmas, I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably.
Well, if they're clever, that's how they'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the Discovery Christmas special.
Oh, goodness. Let's just hope it's not as bad as the Star Wars Christmas special. I mean,
it was a Star Wars holiday special. It was Life Day.
Whatever. It was. I would rather gouge my eyes out.
Yeah.
I stuck with that until the point where Grandpa Wookiee is watching basically hollow porn. And then I just went, no, that's enough. Bye-bye.
Yeah, the less said about that, the better.
Yes, indeed. But we digress.
Yes.
Yeah, holiday special. Love it. I like that idea, actually.
So, Chris, are you excited about more Star Trek?
Oh, definitely.
Weekly Star Trek for a while?
Been looking forward to this for ages. You know, the films have been a nice stop-gap measure, but yeah, this is definitely on the right track so far. As long as they don't disappoint, I'm sure you'll hear me grumbling come hiatus if they do. So,
Yes.
yeah, no, really looking forward to next week already.
Yeah, we'll try and make a commitment to get together around about hiatus time and have a chat about it and see what we're thinking of it at that point.
Finally, a reason to look forward to Mondays. Who looks forward to Mondays?
Geez,
no one,
yeah.
apart from now Star Trek fans, apparently. Yeah.
That's it.
Indeed.
Yeah. Although I will be reviewing it the whole time. I've already reviewed the first 2 episodes, so also check them out.
I certainly will be watching and reading your reviews with anticipation.
Yes, I'm mostly positive. Well, I've been positive about the first 2. The jury's out and the rest. We'll see how it goes. But
Excellent.
I'm optimistic. I'm looking forward to it. I expect them to do it right, not to do it wrong, which is always good. You know, it's I keep saying it, but watching The Flash last season, it was like, how are they going to make an arse of this week?
Fair enough. Well,
Yeah.
it's fair to say they're off to a very strong start.
Yes.
It has impressed me, and it has won me over.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So, does anybody have any kind of closing thoughts, or are you happy for me to beam you back to your respective places?
Yes, break me down to component parts and send me away, please.
Yes. I'm going to make a copy of you and destroy the original, as some might think the technology works.
Very Heisenberg.
Yes. I don't. My Heisenberg compensator is on the blink, so there's no guarantee that you'll arrive the same person that you left.
Taxi.
Oh yeah, the shuttles are offline, and you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Just wander the halls aimlessly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, thanks for joining. It's been great chatting about new Star Trek instead of just having repetitive conversations about the old Star Trek. So. Not that the conversations were repetitive, but they were kind of repetitive. So.
Well, they were.
It has all been said.
Yeah, going over old conversations over and over and over, things that people have been discussing for literally decades.
Yes. But on that, with that in mind, please check out our Next Generation podcasts and the Wrath of Khan podcast and the Star Trek 50th Anniversary podcast, where we have all those same conversations in slightly different orders to other people. And slightly. That's enough. That's enough, apparently, for some.
Well, certainly. All 5 of you. Thank you very much for listening.
Yes. 5 people are awesome. Thank you for listening. So, step on the transporter pad. Keep your legs and arms inside the beam, otherwise there'll be some horrors to deal with.
Doesn't matter. Can I sit down on it?
If I arrive at my destination somehow merged with Sandy, I'm going to be really angry with you.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. It could be good.
Make editing the next podcast significantly easier.
It's alright, we'll be able to share one microphone with our 2 heads.
That's
Woo!
it. Yeah,
Be that character from Phantom Menace.
Oh, man. That's hilarious. Anyway, thank you for joining, and are you safely on the transporter pad?
Yep.
Cool. Well, see you out there, and energizing.
I regret nothing.
That was our discussion on the first 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery. If you enjoyed what you heard, then please do subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or any major podcasting app. We hope you'll join us on the next Kneel Before Pod.